Okay. Recording is in progress, so don't say anything that you'll regret. Okay. So my name is Monica Settles. I am, again, the College and Career Readiness Manager. This is day 7 for me here at AHC. I'm a former educator of over 20 years. So I was a middle and high school English teacher for many years. I was an instructional coach, a literacy resource teacher. I basically have worked from the state, college, K through 12 level. My last teaching job was a technology teacher pre-K through 8. So I've seen all levels. I have 3 children. They are 19, 16, and 12. I have a daughter who's her second year in college at Berklee College of Music. I have an 11th grader who wants to be a Marine veterinarian. And my 12-year-old son believes he's awesome, and whatever he's going to do, he's just going to be awesome. So I believe that too. So that's a little bit about me. So you all know Laura Jackson. She's been amazing with getting everything in place and settled. And then this is Brenda Quintanilla. So you guys have also been in contact with her. Is there anything you guys want to say?
Thanks everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for being here today. Hope it's an exciting and educational thing.
Awesome. All right. So just as a quick connection and icebreaker, if you will, I have one question for you guys. Those of you who are online, I need you to respond in the group chat, if you will. And those of you who are here, just kind of take a moment and think about it. And then I'm just going to ask for a couple of people to share. Okay. So the question is, think about someone who's had a positive impact on your life. Okay. What type of impact did they have, and why was that so relevant or important to you? So a person who's had a positive impact in your life, what type of impact did they have, and why is that something that you remember or comes to mind or is so vitally important as a connection in your life? So take a couple of moments to think about that. Some of you all are thinking of your 3rd grade teacher. Hi, how are you? A neighbor. Take a moment, feel free to share in the chat for those of you who are online. And I'm going to stop talking to give you all some think time.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. So I want you to think about a person who's had an impact in your life. So I want a couple of people to share out about that person who's had a positive impact in your life. So think about, what was that impact? Why was it so vitally important? If it was, a game changer for you, if it was something that just helped you along the way, but think about that one important person who had that positive impact in your life.
The chat that somebody made it clear that they thought that he did good work, and it made him think that he could be successful. Another one of our new volunteers wrote, let's see, my parents, each of their families immigrated here from West Africa in their teen years, and they worked their way up to open us to new opportunities that they didn't have. Juliana writes that somebody checked in with them and looked out for her.
Thank you guys for sharing. Anyone here in the room?
My mom thought that I could be whatever I wanted to be, and she really encouraged me.
So mom encouraged whatever you want to be, you can totally do it. Awesome.
This is what she wanted me to do. Which is what I do.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
The person who just came to mind was somebody who I was the boss of, and he was much more qualified. And he really encouraged me that I could do my job, which was different from his job. I was more like a logistics person, but it was still very affirmative moment where I needed affirmation.
Affirmation is key. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I had numerous tennis coaches that were very influential and positive on in my youth, but one in particular I remember just sort of pulling me out and working things with me at no charge, just because he wanted to see me succeed, and that was still, I think, a decision to this day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I've heard parents, colleagues, coaches. Some of you guys may have thought of a friend, a neighbor, a mentor, someone else. Why did I ask that question?
Because we're going to be important to someone else's life.
Absolutely. So I want you to think about that as you are meeting with your own mentee. What kind of impact do you want to have in their life? What kind of nuggets do you want them to remember forever from you as you're working with them? And not just with the academics, but just life lessons, life skills, things like that. We all come with a bunch of experiences and knowledge and expertise in our own stories. Great, maybe not always so great, but learning lessons, right? That we can always share and connect with our mentees. So just something to think about along the way. All right.
I was gonna say,
Yep.
2 people wrote in online about teachers. Somebody that, they were a nerd and the teacher said, it's okay. If you really like to be a nerd. Somebody else, a teacher that, talked about things that were outside of what they were learning at school.
I had a music teacher that always said, be in the right place at the right time with the right equipment and the right attitude. 7th grade, I've never forgotten that. So I take that through my entire life. All right, so I'm gonna hand it over. Yep.
Is there an email and a phone to get in touch with you?
Yes, I will share all of that.
Okay.
And you want to say something? Yes.
Hey everyone, I'm Brenda, the College and Career Readiness Coordinator. Thank you all for being here in person and virtually. So we're gonna get started. We do have a slight agenda here. We're gonna go over some key deadlines. I know we have mentors that are working with seniors, and we also have mentors that are working with juniors. So starting off with the seniors, we have college essays that are due. Most of our students are at different stages in the college application process. Some students are still narrowing down their list of colleges they'd like to apply. Some students are dead set on, okay, these are my schools I'm interested, I will be applying or have applied to these schools. So I highly encourage, if you are working with a senior, to check in with them on their Common App application, and please review their Common Application before the student submits. There is sometimes a question the student may have missed or something small, so we highly encourage mentors to review the Common App before the student submits. It could be, you guys can meet virtually, in person, what works best for you too. FAFSA. FAFSA is a student application that students apply to receive aid. Usually the application opens October 1st, but this year there's been a change in the FAFSA application. So the FAFSA will open in December. December 1st. Yes, they're saying December 1st, but there may be a slight delay in that. There's some changes in that. So December 1st is what we're looking at. And Monica and I will be meeting with the students and their families to complete the FAFSA applications.
But do they have to seek you out, or you're going to seek them out?
Both,
Okay,
yes.
we know our customers.
And I'll talk more specifics as far as how we're communicating and then how you all are going to get all of the information so that we can all stay in touch together.
Yes. Does anyone so far, in person or online, have any questions about the Common App or the FAFSA application? Megan.
I was giving a thumbs up to say you're doing good.
Thank you. Thanks, Megan. Appreciate it. Kathy, was your hand raised?
Yeah, it has to do with all 3 of them, somebody who is not yet quite focused. And I guess the order of priority is a deadlines working on the Common App.
Yes.
And even though they haven't yet narrowed it down, every time I talk to her, it's a different college. And so my question is, also she's going back and forth between decision and later.
Regular
And it
decision.
does make a difference in
Mhm.
terms of deadlines.
Definitely.
So, I guess it would be helpful to me to hear what your general advice is about Common App. What I'm going through with my granddaughters was, if you know you want to go, for sure, go.
The only thing I'm gonna tell you about early decision, after doing this forever, especially with these kids that are low income, if they go early decision and they get accepted, that's a contact to go to that school. That school could say, I'm giving you a quarter of what I would have given you later.
Okay, that was my question.
So
Yeah.
they can go early action is fine, or regular admission, but early
Okay,
decision
that
for these
was, that
kids
was
is just
basically,
it's,
Yeah,
they're
they're-
locking themselves into something and you don't know.
and before they get the results of
Mhm.
the financial aid.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically.
Early
the answer
action is
no.
fine.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
my answer is no, great.
Mhm.
And you want to dive deep with each student. So if, you've got the 4.14 kid that could get a full ride anywhere, with the resume, out the door and all those
Right.
kinds of things, that's a different conversation versus, another student
Yeah.
who's doing well, but like might need to really consider those types of things. So, we deep dive with these types of,
Yeah, well,
conversations.
the basic thing for me, because it was different with my grandmother, they had the complication of crew, whatever that was, so it was just basically. You're bound to go before you know what age you're gonna
Yeah.
get.
Right, when the
For
early
our
decision
kids,
is a contract.
That's for our kids, the key thing, thank you.
Mhm.
The other thing is, these kids are not paying for their application. So my student applied to like 5 or 6 around here, and then all of a sudden said to me last week, we might be moving to Texas, let's pick some schools near Dallas. And I said, fine, so they're not paying for the applications and they're all on the Common App. So it's like a few more essays and check off the schools, they can apply all over the place, doesn't matter.
They only have to apply once to get not having to pay.
On the Common App, they
No,
get
on
that
the
code.
application.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't play with
It's a code on the Common App for all the schools.
Okay, so again, this is some confusion.
They get that from school, right, the guidance counselor?
Yeah, they can get it from the guidance
So
counselor.
once she puts that number on the application, she's set for all of them. Okay, great, thank you.
And then just to clarify, early decision, if the student's applying with early decision, that means they're binding. So if the student gets accepted, they have to go to that university. Early action is just the students making the action to apply early. But let's say if the student gets into the school, they're not required to go to the school if they decide, actually, I would like to go to the school instead.
And also early action, they can defer you. They can say, we're not accepting you in the early action group, but we're deferring you to regular admission until you March.
I would just like to provide some additional information about my experience from last year with early action. Some schools it's less advantageous to apply early action than regular decision. Like for instance, Virginia Tech last year accepted a tiny percentage of early action applicants, a much smaller percentage than regular decision. So I think if you're thinking, oh, early action, great, we can just check an application or two off the list, I would say, look on the internet, because all the statistics about, acceptances are there, and see if the school that your student, you're thinking, oh, maybe early action is a good idea. Look and see what the, what the percentage of applicants they admitted in that cycle was, because I was shocked. I basically admitted no one in early action, like 6% or so. I mean, it was a tiny percentage. So I felt that had I known that, I would have advised my student against applying early action.
Gotcha.
Comment on early decision, one option is they run the net price calculator for the school, which they're gonna need financial information from their parents to do that. If they're comfortable with what the net price calculator says, then they can apply early decision, because you can always back out of an early decision agreement if it's not financially possible, but with the understanding that they should meet the net price calculator.
Yeah,
You know they can back out? I don't know any kid that was ever able to back out of an early decision.
Yeah,
You can? Oh, okay,
I do.
thank you.
There's extenuating circumstances,
Yeah.
which pretty, if it's financial. But it's not,
Thank you.
yeah, it's not a good thing necessarily. It might hurt your chances at other schools if you back out.
I think another approach with early action is that if you have kids who are interested in possibly going private or out of state, let them apply early action to those schools because they'll get the offer with oftentimes with money offers as well, so they can compare the cost between schools, and I think private schools are more apt to do that early on.
And I'm very thankful for all of my counselors and those that have worked in the field, both in the room and online. We've got quite a few in our mentor community, so I appreciate that.
Mentors online, can you all hear us? Okay, thumbs up. Perfect. Alrighty, Peter said many schools automatically enter applicants for early action who are denied to the regular pool. Alrighty. And sorry, going back to the college Common App, another big priority is the essay. A big part of the application is the essay. Last week, about, I want to say 15-20 of our students met with Ami and Adrian, who are from the essay coaches. They met for 15-20 minutes to review their college essay. Some students had an outline, some students had a rough draft, some students decided to change their topic. So I highly encourage for you to tell your students to reach out to Ami and Adrian. Ami and Adrian will be willing to meet with students either virtually or in person to help support with their college essay as well. So the student will need to email Ami and Adrian to set up an appointment and go from there. But the student does need to mention in the email, I'm a CCR student or I'm part of AHC. Adrian know.
She met with myself and my student, and she was very, very good. And if she would be willing to, after we come up with something, review it because of her experience, that would be a huge benefit. Which leads to my other.
Could you repeat that question? We couldn't really hear that one.
Yes, Kathy, do you want to repeat what you said?
It was a wonderful experience for the person, Ami, who reviewed my student's essay that she had written for Quest Bridge. And her critique and suggestions during the time we had was invaluable. And she had mentioned that she would be happy to help, but didn't say how. So it would be that if the student could directly email her with something to review.
Yes.
And that gets into the follow-up question is how to do it when they have this complication of Google Drive on their, can they work, can they, I figured it out, how to get it from one Google Drive to the Google Drive she could use, but I guess what format should she send it to Amy?
Students usually send their college essays through Google Drive using their personal email.
Okay,
Mhm.
so she
You mean Google Docs?
Yeah.
She can Google Docs?
Google Docs.
Google Docs,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I just learned that in Google Docs, and I'm doing this a while, but I never did it before. I was editing things back and forth. And I was able to make my suggestions on Google Docs and they came up as suggestions, and then I got a message back today that she accepted ABCD suggestions and made the changes, and then she redid it and sent it again.
Okay, that
So-
step about doing it was that.
That you can make suggestions and you type in there and it shows us what you're crossing out,
I've
what you're
used Google
changing.
Docs before. The question was using Google Docs when she was using it in her school.
Right.
So I think we're okay now.
Yeah.
I think I know.
And for mentors who still haven't gotten to that point, students who have, for their school, they have access to Google Drive. They have a student issued Google Drive account. But if, as a mentor, if you would like to share a document or the student would like to share a document with you, they can't because that's a school issued account. So we highly encourage students need to use a personal Google Docs account to share documents with you. Alrighty. Any questions so far? Or any comments?
I just want to say, for the new mentors, we don't do anything with FAFSA at all. We don't touch it, we don't talk about it, we don't have anything to do with the money.
Yeah, and so,
That's their job.
right.
Yeah.
But I do encourage mentors and students, I encourage mentors to have students get used to the student aid form, which is the website where FAFSA is found, and just so they can get familiar, so they know what documents to prepare once the FAFSA application does open up. But as far as mentors working one-on-one with students on the FAFSA application, we don't do that. So Monica and I will work with the students and their families to fill out the FAFSA application, review tax returns, all of that.
And just that positive talk around like when it comes to this or finances or things like that. If there have been challenges or things with students, you know, sometimes you hear the comments, the random comments that they'll spill out, but just, you know, well, you're gonna do great when you work with, you know, them and you guys, and don't worry, like there's tons of options, there's lots of, so, you know, just keep encouraging them to not pull back or feel a little intimidated because of that, you know, remark, because that could be an intimidating conversation or even the paperwork alone for families. So, and we all know that, so as a village of support to keep them moving along and moving ahead.
And I'd also like to mention for some students, FAFSA may not be applicable to them due to their status. So there is the FAFSA application that is for students who are either undocumented or special circumstances. So we will also help students fill out that application.
Great, what's the name of that?
VASA, VASA. Yes. Alrighty, and moving on to juniors. For juniors, it's a great way for students to get started by start thinking about what careers they'd like to pursue, start thinking about what colleges they would like to go. And Lynn, I want to use you as an example. Last week, Arlington Public Schools hosted a career and college fair at a Thomas Jefferson Middle School, where there were, I believe, like 130 universities that came out and spoke to students. And Lynn went with her mentee. I saw.
Why didn't you tell us?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna suggest, that that's.
Gotcha.
Why didn't you send that out as a
Yeah.
blast? That
We
would,
will
Yeah.
be doing that.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
we're working on that. So
She was going to meet with the DW counselor, that's how it got translated to me.
Mhm. Yes, so moving forward, we will have a way to streamline information to mentors and students. Monica and I will be working on that. Now that we're fully staffed, we can streamline that. But last week, Lynn and her mentee went to Thomas Jefferson Middle School and they met with different universities. They were able to ask questions, got free swag. Just fingers crossed, we'll have more career and college.
So Brenda has been pretty much holding down CCR for 5 months with the short staff, so.
we were going to have some kind of email listserv for the mentors, and that never happens, because Lynn could have sent out a,
Right.
So I'm gonna talk about that, that's on the agenda.
okay,
Mhm.
is that, yeah.
Kind of a related question, I found out at the College and Career Night that you have arranged a trip to Virginia Tech,
Yes.
which I'm like, oh, well, that's good, which I knew about it, but you know. So that's, I mean, I think things that you do with the students that mentors might be interested in knowing about.
Definitely,
Would
yes.
be good to know about.
Have
Definitely.
you set up any other visits? 'Cause I know I
Yeah.
emailed you about a couple that
Yeah,
my student wanted to go to, and it wasn't on your list.
no, so far we only have the Virginia Tech. But we encourage students and mentors, if they are able to meet, if there's a university nearby, like American University, Georgetown, for the student to meet the mentor at the university and do a solo tour. If that works.
Is that one-on-one or?
Yeah, one-on-one.
We're allowed to travel and do things with our students like that?
You can go with your student, but you just can't give the student a ride. So the student will have to meet you at the university. So the student could take a metro or get dropped off. But as far as mentors giving a student a ride, you cannot do that.
Can we take the students together?
I was just gonna say.
Yes. So, Lyft, no, but if you take the bus, that could work, but as far as Uber, Lyft, no.
But the bus and stuff.
Public transit, yeah.
So are you thinking about any other visits or that's it? Just
For the fall, Virginia, it's only Virginia Tech.
And it's overnight?
Yes, it's an overnight trip.
She was very excited.
Yeah.
Yippee.
Yes.
If you go, two of my kids are there. From here.
I'm not going.
No, but if she's going, no, but she's going, I can possibly hook them up. I have a junior and a freshman there now.
Well, see, that would be great. Can you make
Because
that
I
happen?
hooked my freshman up with the junior over the summer. And
Yeah.
it was,
Good.
they're both AHU kids and it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So could there be time in the schedule to do a meet and greet with the alums who are there?
Yes.
you know where they are.
Yes.
Make
So
sure
list.
we have all their content.
Yeah, you should have all that, that's.
Yeah. For the Virginia Tech overnight stay, it's happening November 6th, which is a day off for students. November 6th, I believe that's a teacher workday. And we're coming back November 7th, which is a Tuesday. Sorry, I take it back. November 6th, students will miss school. November 7th is a teacher workday, so students will not miss school on November 7th. What we have on the agenda for the Virginia Tech trip, students will meet former CCR students who are currently at Virginia Tech. We're also hosting a first STEM panel. Students are going to tour the university. Also, they're going to tour the dorms so they can get acclimated as to what it would be like to live on campus. We're also going to eat at the dining hall. A lot of students are excited for the dining. I heard VT is like known for like, yeah.
Exactly.
Like within a week, it's like, oh. What else do we have on the agenda? We are also meeting with admissions counselors, and there's more in the itinerary that we're still planning out. But we are not staying on campus. We'll be staying at a local hotel. Yeah.
This is just for the juniors.
Juniors and seniors.
Juniors and seniors.
Yes.
They have a total of about 40, right? About 40 going, so several adults and mostly the students. And then we're also revamping that a few days later with our 5th graders. We're taking them to that as well.
Yes. And I believe most of your students are signed up for the trip.
So all of our.
Yes, and yep, your students are
I
signed
was
up.
literally texting and messaging yesterday. And letting them know. And confirming all the details, so. But yes, everyone will be included from this point forward.
Mhm.
With everything that's going on as far as field trips, events, walking, everyone will know what's going on, so.
Yes. Alrighty, and then moving on to SATs, ACT exams, we highly encourage, I know some universities are doing test optional or steering away from admissions test, but we still encourage our students to at least take the SAT or the ACT once. And it's also a requirement for a student to be in our program to complete the SAT or ACT at least once. Some upcoming deadlines, for the November 4th test date, the deadline already passed, which was October 5th, so students should have already registered for the November 4th SAT. And I know our online mentors cannot see this, but at the back of the room, we do have a few SAT, ACT work. Students have access to these workbooks, but if you would like to take a copy now and work with your student with those workbooks, feel free to take a copy or so. We have more in the CCR room, but students do know they have access to these workbooks. And students should not be paying for the SAT, ACT. They should be from their counselors, but sometimes it can be hard to get in contact with their counselor. If they can't get a code and just on time, they can let us know and we can get a code. We can give the code to a student.
So they can go either to the counselor or to you?
Yes.
The code. And is it just one free, is it just one free one, or can they take it multiple times?
If they go through the counselor, they can get a code multiple times.
Okay.
With us, I believe it's just one code.
So overall, that could be like a check-in that you, question, you're checking in with your mentee, hey, have you already taken, are you ready? Have you been studying? Like, if you haven't been working with them directly, that could be a check-in type of question to ask your mentee.
Do they take the PSAT?
They did last
that in
week,
school.
yeah, last week, sophomores and juniors took the
So
PSAT.
they have the PSAT results.
I don't think the results are out yet. No.
Last seniors, they would have it.
Yeah, seniors,
Have it
current
last
seniors.
year.
Mhm.
There's practice tests online, different resources and things. They can pull questions or materials to study from.
Janet online is asking, is it okay to discuss the test results with the students?
Yes, we highly encourage. In fact, I believe we may make it mandatory for students to share results with the mentors. I feel like that's a great way to gauge where the student is at. And if the student is thinking of taking the SAT or ACT again, they know what sections to work on. So yes.
How does it, I know some schools now are doing, you don't have to do the test anymore. Do you, will they accept whatever the best test is? I know when I went through it, I could take as many tests as I wanted and I didn't have to worry about it, just whatever my best test score was. Is that still the case?
Yes, as long as submitted on time.
As long as, okay. So there's really no risk in them taking it other than just.
Cost.
But you said it's free.
Yeah, it should be free. Mhm. I should have emphasized it's free for students who have free or reduced lunch, and that is the majority of our students.
Great.
Yeah.
Any feedback or questions or any other input you guys want to share on that?
Another factor that on the SAT is they do take, most colleges will super score, so they'll take like your highest verbal and your highest math.
Oh, okay.
You can split it.
Okay.
They'll split it.
Back in my day, you couldn't do that. It was like whatever the.
And on the ACT, they'll take the highest sections. Because there's 5 sections on the ACT, so if you take it 3 times, they'll just take the 5 best scores from the 3 times.
Yeah.
What sections are 5? There's a bunch of sections on the ACT, and I
I think
know
it's
that
officially then it's free,
Four.
it's like math, verbal,
they'll down
science.
to 3, it used to be
Yeah.
more, okay, but I know they'll take the top
It used to
4.
be 4.
Used to be 4, okay.
Yes, and mentors, if you are interested in hosting an ACT, SAT workshop, we're more than willing to have you work with our students and host a workshop.
Do you do any tutoring here for SATs and ACTs?
We do, but it's mostly we get a group of students, and it's like a mock SAT, so students will receive a practice test, and it'll be the same as if they were to take,
Timed.
yeah, it would be timed,
Quiet.
yeah, and they will receive a graphing calculator.
So when you say we're welcome to do a workshop here, what do you envision that to look like?
Yeah, so let's say we were to host a workshop with a mentor could focus on a section, for example, it could be a math section. So for that day, the mentor will talk to students about strategies on how to answer math questions, or any suggestions they have for taking that section of the test.
Do you have any kids? I'm sorry.
I thought you wanted to share. Yeah, I saw your hand.
Oh, no, just because something was flying.
Oh,
around.
Yeah, there's like a little
There's
fly.
one.
Yeah.
Go ahead, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Do you have, or I know there's a lot of privacy issues concerned with this, but kids with IEPs, are we allowed to have an understanding of how we can help them meet their IEP needs and accommodations under these testing?
That is a great question. That's actually something we would.
On the SATs, they're entitled to all their accommodations.
Mhm.
Right, so we definitely want to provide an environment in which they could do it according to their accommodations, but as far as how much can be shared, let me confirm that within the schools. As a former teacher, I would be considerate of how much I shared outside of people who work outside of the building.
Sure, of course.
With the accommodations, and then, but then there's also the conversation with the student of letting them know here's why this information has to be shared as far as your
Mhm.
accommodations, to make sure they're comfortable and that they don't feel different, separate, all those kinds of things.
I'm just thinking about
Um,
reminding them, like, both my kids at IEP,
Right.
so like, reminding them about the bubble test and reminding them
Right.
of different strategies, so those are kinds of things that it would be nice to share if we're allowed to.
And so that brings a great point. If you're working with the student and there are accommodations, then we would, we could do, where we can say, just as a reminder, when you have the strategy, you have extra time. I have a daughter who has an HI 504 plan. And constantly have to remind her during testing, remember you have that extra time, you can, utilize these things, and so, yeah.
And the
I
school
think that would be
counselor is the one that schedules them in a separate place. Take it, so if they're all because they'll be in a room with everyone else that has more time. They're not put in a room where they're the only one that can sit there later. There's special
So if we do a
rooms.
mock
Yeah,
session, then you would do
You know
it
that,
in the
so
same
it's
way.
the guidance counselor in the school that has to.
If they get it
set
right, they're in
that up.
time, sometimes it doesn't all fall into place the way it's supposed to.
Yes.
Great point, thank you for that. So now the cause-
I guess when I think about the cost though of, standardized tests, I mean, there's the financial cost, but there's the time cost. And so that's where I'm kind of thinking hard with my student, like, is her time better spent really focusing on her classes? And, I think it's good to practice. I think it's a bad idea to go in cold, but, you can really, kids with tutors spend a lot of time like prepping for that.
Yeah.
And I feel like, that's not an option. And there's some part of me that feels like taking that time and, trying to like raise the B to an A in English or something is sort of time better spent. I mean, I'd never discourage, obviously I'm not gonna say don't take it, who cares, but I think it's a more complex kind of question in my mind anyway.
I'm sorry.
No, but it does serve to level the playing field a little bit and give these kids more exposure to testing environments and the tutoring skills and things that they may not have had an opportunity to experience before. So I think there's a value in some of that.
To a point, I guess it's like sort of how much,
It's
how much
individual to each
time.
kid though, like it's gotta be into each kid.
Right.
It does a lot depend on the kid, because if the kid comes from an environment where she or he hasn't done that type of testing, it's fair to go basic strategies without necessarily going.
Sure.
As your anxiety diminishes, I think the more often you try it.
But I think you make a really fair point, because I've been reading like the testing optional, testing is just not, I have to lean on you all. I mean, it's been 100 years since I went through this. It's not as important for a lot of schools, right? To test.
Exactly. I was maybe too much information. I'm taking a class right now on resources for like college consultant, admissions consultants. And one thing that you can look at is like for colleges that are included in that data set, it's super easy. You just Google like Virginia Tech Common Data Set, and it's basically a survey that the colleges fill out. They actually mark what you sort of like say if it's an interview important. There's different sections, but one section is admissions, and I was looking at it today, and it was showing like is the interview important, and you can see that it might be considered or it might be really highly regarded. And I noticed that test scores were often only like not really looked at as much, but you could look at specific schools and see, and that could give you a gauge. The other thing I wanted to mention is that there are 2 schools in Virginia now that have direct admissions. I don't know if you've all heard, but it's just sort of goes along with what we're talking about. It's VCU and Radford. So with a certain GPA and meeting certain criteria, and if you're not like in certain colleges like engineering perhaps, you can be directly admitted without any test scores. So that might be a consideration.
Thank you.
I think all points is completely valid. So, and I think what I'm hearing is making sure we have a good balance across the board. Are the students that we're mentoring getting the opportunity to be exposed to every realm that's going to be involved in this process? What does that look like? If, we're not asking you to take your next 10, or 5 mentor sessions and focus on a test. I'm not for that as well. When, there's immediate things on the horizon, but the opportunity to have the access to be able to practice, to understand the process, why they're doing it and what it connects to, which is really important as far as what am I needing this for? And is this going to be, like she said, relevant to my process? I think all of that, is vital and important to have, and so that they have that knowledge base as well. It's not just about what am I doing, but why am I doing this and how this connects to the next steps of the process for me and my success down the road. So that includes, depending on their major, or whatever it is, these types of things that I have to do, but also the exposure of having that practice and knowing if I'm in this environment and have to do it, then, and not just, hey, take this test, like after, because we said so, and we need that data for, everyone else, but they don't understand how it's relevant to them, even if it should be. So having those conversations opens the door for them to understand about themselves, to advocate for their needs during this process, and to have that exposure to all the resources and things that they're going to need to move forward. Makes sense? But I think all points across the board are totally valid and need to be considered with each of our mentees. Any other questions on that?
Well, I was gonna say, somebody online kind of echoed what you said about, isn't this a student-specific discussion? So it really depends on the students and what they need. So,
Would it be
Yes, thanks,
helpful
David.
to have a list of the colleges in the state of Virginia that will not require tests?
They're all
All the private and public colleges in Virginia?
Yeah, I think there's only like a handful of colleges in the country that require tests, like MIT,
Yeah.
Georgetown,
Stanford.
those, and then like a lot of them are test blind, the entire state of California is test blind.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the
Well,
emphasis.
I was looking at George Mason's website, admissions website this morning, and I'll go back and look at it again.
And as things are consistently changing,
Mhm.
these conversations are helping us to reframe what these processes need to look like for our students moving forward as well, so.
Because I think that, isn't there some evidence that, like, the reported SAT scores, or the average SAT and ACT scores at test optional colleges are high, because if your scores aren't high, you don't submit them. So they're coming to us.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to see where they say they are, but it's not every kid, it's not every kid
They're
who's,
just not apples and apples, yeah.
yeah, so.
It definitely helps reduce the stress of my student this year. She did very,
Yeah.
very poorly on the PSAT. So we kind of went in knowing she was probably gonna go test optional, but she decided she wanted to take the test anyway.
Yeah.
Just smart.
The Khan Academy SAT practice is nice. It links to your College Board account, so it knows what you need to work on. My husband's an AHC team tutor, so he tutored her a bit in math. She still didn't do well. She's going test optional. But what it did help her with is like reviewing all that math. She's doing better in math this
Right.
year.
Right.
So.
And that's what matters, right?
Yeah. We have somebody online that has a question. So, Jana, do you want to unmute yourself and we'll see if we can hear you?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I was assigned my mentor a bit late. We actually just met about 2 weeks ago. She's a junior, and I'm actually an APS teacher, so I do know how to build relationships with students, but I found that it's a bit awkward in the beginning. We, had 1 hour at the public library, and as a junior, she really doesn't know her path. Basically, she said, well, I'm going to go to college because that's what I'm supposed to do. And in a way it was, I want to get to know her so I can help her appropriately, but I found myself having to ask a lot of questions, and I didn't want to come off as just quizzing her. And the only question she had for me was where I went to school. So I would be interested in hearing just from people who started out with a junior who's maybe a little bit lost on this, how to move forward.
Yeah. Any mentors?
I just want to say that last year, when we had the icebreaker, we met our students, the icebreaker was specific between you and your mentee. Flavor ice cream you liked and what, and all that. This year's icebreaker was for everyone to meet everyone, and it didn't serve the purpose of getting to know your mentee. So you have other kind of icebreaker, which especially with a junior, where you both sit and you answer a bunch of questions and you swap your stories. The connection was instantaneous.
Do you have a copy of that for us who have juniors now?
Brenda,
Whoever had that?
That was last year's.
Yes, I can look and see if we have it. I'm not sure if we do, but I can look for it.
And I would throw out to everybody that for the most part on Thursdays, Brenda and Monica are at the Shell, which is a different AHC property in a community room. And it's a fantastic place to meet with your student. And then if you have questions, then they'll be there. And I can suggest to them, but they've already probably thought of it, that maybe they'll bring some get to know you games to the Shell. So if you want to meet with your student there and play a game, they'll just have some different resources for you.
4:30 to 7:30.
And I will send the information by email again, but it's definitely a good idea to call or text them first, just in case they're both sick and they have to cancel, or this Thursday night, there's actually an AHC event, so it won't be happening. For the most part, it'll be happening, but just confirm with them, also by email, but by cell or cell phone.
Is there a similar option for Arlington Mill? Because that's where my mentee lives.
We can share some get to know you games by email as well.
Okay.
And the biggest thing, especially for new mentors, when you're first pairing, we're not going to check and see, hey, what academic, or major thing did you do with your student on the first, couple of times? Do you know them? Do they have siblings? How's school? You're sharing your background, that kind of thing, just to build, relationship first. And then, opening the door for those questions around, okay, I'm here, how can I, be of service? And, what is it that you really may want to get out of this? But, get to, that takes out all the pressure of, the intimidation, the anxiety, all that kind of stuff, just getting to know each other. And then being able to move from there. I promise you, they'll be stuck to you once they get to know you. Just letting your hair down a bit and sharing your story and hearing theirs and really being interested in who they are versus the person, and then going forward from there.
So, alrighty, we're almost out of time. So Monica, I'm gonna pass it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Brenda. Guys, can you give Brenda a hand? She's been.
Oh, thank you.
Day 7, I have a million questions still, and Laura as well, that I continually come to them for. So I really appreciate just the door that they've allowed me to come in very easily, and they feed me a lot too. So that's awesome. She shared a lot regarding like all of the nitty-gritty details and things like that. I'm going to talk a little bit about things that you guys have asked for. So staying in the know of what's going on, being updated on all of our events, having a one-stop shop, if you will, of all of the links and resources and things like that. So that is what I'll be working on. By the end of the month, you will have that email. I'll send an email for the meeting today, key dates around SATs, our Virginia Tech trip, all of those kinds of things that have been discussed today. But by the end of the month, you're going to get a wonderful email from me of a one-stop shop that kind of houses all of the important things. We are looking at the backwards planning. We have the pieces in place, but as far as putting it all together in a wonderful picture, we have all the puzzle pieces, but we have to put it all together. So that's what we'll be working on. I'm also sending out with this follow-up email after today's meeting, a Google form for some feedback. I know that we meet, but we meet quarterly. I want some more feedback as to how we can serve you guys as mentors, and what would be beneficial as far as resources or meeting up or problem solving or wherever it might be. And then I will be doing some more check-ins a little bit more frequently around how's it going between you and your mentee. How can I support? What other types of things do you need? And then share some stories so we can celebrate you and your mentees, and we want to celebrate you guys. Like, you're giving your time, your energy, your resources, your expertise, and your knowledge. So we want to make sure that that's honored as well. Yes, ma'am.
As far as, and I mentioned it before, I know there's been times where I have a question and you answer quick. If we had an email group that I could throw out and say, my kid's applying to Virginia Tech, have you contact with this, and someone here is going
Can
to have
quickly
an answer.
answer.
I had that 2 years ago with Nova, where I got in touch with every admissions person there under the sun because we had issues and whatnot. And I shared it with you guys, you know, the whole list of all the contacts and everything. But I would wouldn't have had to spend 2 hours on the phone and emailing if I just put it out there. Who's got the contact in the science department, advanced department at Nova, is, you know?
Okay.
So that CCR thing that I emailed, y'all can respond to that and it'll go to everybody in the whole group.
Was that a BCC though?
It's not a BCC. I don't
It's a
understand. It's a listserv.
It's a group that created with all the mentors.
But if we reply, it has to be reply all.
It has, if it's, yes, it'll be reply all.
Okay, I'm
Could
just
you
thinking
send
maybe,
that around again? It got lost in the,
yeah.
Okay, sure.
I got started late and there was an immediate deadline due the next.
But
So
if
for
you
those of
maybe
you
just
online who
send it
can't
out.
hear, we're discussing
This is our listserv, this is our.
how to
Yes, I
collaborate
will
more
send it
quickly
out.
and
It's
efficiently.
not
yeah,
a list
people
of
up to
people,
the-
it just says
Yeah,
CCR
your bio
user,
goes
so
Yeah.
Okay.
it looks like it already
Website,
exists.
yeah.
It already exists.
Yeah. It's not like a reply all
Yeah.
each individual person.
So there's times where you have good question in there.
That's right.
I just go directly to Brenda.
So what currently exists allows something like that to happen, like a question can go out and everyone will see it and anyone can reply? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so the key dates activities for students will be sent out by the end of the month. I'm sending a recap of what was discussed today, along with the Google form that I would ask for you guys to fill out. Please give as much feedback as possible in anything that we need to reconsider. We know as things are changing with schools and systems and all that kind of stuff, as we're planning and moving along long-term, we want to be able to take those things into effect and revamp and revise to make this program even better for our students and for you guys. I'm also going to do a Q&A document to kind of pair with the mentor handbook. We are onboarding new mentors all of the time, and we are about to do a big push to bring in more students. So we want more mentors, and I know Laura always loves that we're asking for more mentors. So as we're doing that, we're going to have more communication with you guys along the way. If there are ideas or things that can help serve you better, that's what we're here for. So please, when I share the email, you'll have all my contact information, including myself. So feel free to share, that information with me as well. And are there any questions? We are at 6:26.
I know you had mentioned the common data set, so I just did a Google for common data set initiative. What do I look for specifically? Because I don't know exactly looking at the web
When I
page.
did it today, I just did, I'm trying to think of what school, I might have done.
Yeah, every school has them, they're usually in their.
Oh, so you just put in the specific
You put the
university?
specific school,
I
and it
see.
should just send you there. It's
So
usually
the
on their
common data
website.
set, Virginia Tech, and it'll come
Yeah,
up
and
there.
it's, I
Okay.
think it's usually housed on that school.
Oh, that's,
website.
okay, and then,
And then look for, it's section C7 is the admission, so if you're looking specifically at. Yeah, it'll
Read
give
point
you
average.
a lens into what they feel is
Yeah.
important
Okay,
criteria.
that's it, okay,
That makes sense.
so it's not a universal data set, that's what I was looking for, it's like
Right.
something for every university, it was all sort of
And
a
then it's all,
database.
and then it's like
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
and then you go to each section.
I found
I
it.
see. Thank
We're
you.
good, yeah, no, it's very helpful.
All units, all the colleges.
Yeah, well, it's not, I think they have to self-select, but I don't, there's a.
Yeah, there's actually a New York Times article about this, there's a couple of colleges that don't.
There's participate, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Most of them that you would care about are probably on there.
Do you have another question, Glenn, or?
There's also Naviance,
Mhm.
so you can see.
Naviance.
Yeah, that's-
Which my student knew nothing about, which
That's
was sort of
that's a good
alarming
thing
to
to zone
me,
in on,
so.
especially with the class.
Can we get training on ambiance? That was talked to that a long time ago. Because I know the kids use it
That
in
would be
school.
great.
Yeah, they
and We have
do.
no idea what it is. and how it's-
So there's also,
They don't.
yeah, they do
There you
use
go.
Naviance.
Yeah.
So there's also, there was a question around what's being offered at high schools as far as various college prep versus, you know, the things that we're also doing here. So because our students go to different schools and have different things, I'll make sure we have that information as well. So very specifically as far as the things that are given, it's,
Naviance is APS though. It's all the public schools use Naviance.
they
all the high
do.
schools, yeah.
I know
Yeah.
other school districts that use Naviance as well, but then there are also other types. So like, I'm not as familiar with Arlington County as I am with several other counties in Virginia
Yeah.
and DC and Maryland. I've taught in all three. So I'm, you know, for every college and career readiness person in the building, whatever their title might be, they have a subset of things that they do with seniors. There's curriculum and senior, you know, courses that focus on college prep and things like that. So there are other various tools and resources that are connected that's already happening in schools too. So we'll make sure that everyone's aware of that too.
You know, what
Yes.
would be really helpful
Yes,
is
ma'am.
the view of the college prep person. In other words, is APS's idea of what their role is?
Yeah.
My granddaughter, and I won't reveal her name, for her senior project in one of the public high schools here, did a survey of her colleagues. How many times did they talk to a college counselor? The average was 1. What percentage did not once talk to a college counselor in the year? It was not insignificant. So, I mean, there's the official thing, which is good to know about, because then we can encourage them to say, this is a time where you have to go see, this is their job to
Right,
talk to
right.
you. I have what actually was from my high school seniors.
So the commenting was around juniors and seniors going to, particularly seniors, seeing their guidance counselors to make sure that they're getting all the resources and the support and the tools within the building as well. I had a conversation with a student at the Shell last week regarding a schedule change. She specifically asked for architecture and QuickBooks because she helps with family budgeting. And she got Art 2, which we know follows Art 1. So that might be, you know, a requirement, but then photography. So I helped her talk through, you know, how to approach her counselor and ask, you know, is it a semester class? Is it a year-long classes? I know, like, you know, the cores are focused and then you're plugging in basically, you know, to create that big schedule. But just having the tools to be able to have the conversation or to ask the right questions instead of just, you know, counselors are busy. They have, you know, 100 plus, you know, students and a checklist specifically for seniors that we've just got to get through it. However, just to slow it down just a little bit, to see me and say, this is what I'm really passionate about. She loves math and art and wants to mirror and match them together. So, which is why she wants the architecture course. And so, you know, just even talking with students around that kind of advocacy could be very helpful. The counselor said, not sure if that can happen. And I didn't make any promises either. So be very careful with that too. But I said, we can open the door for the conversation. And the counselor is now aware and has it on her radar and said, I'm not sure, but let's explore more options and set a time for them to meet again. So she was just going to walk away and say, well, I'll just, you know, do the work and but she's miserable. She's completely miserable in that class. And so she doesn't want that to mess up her future moving forward with what she wants to do. So just consider all of those particular things, you know, as we go along.
You two going into the schools and meeting with the counselors? I know we can't meet with the counselors and talk to them. But
I have emailed, and I'm going in schools now,
Okay.
and I'm ramping up. I'm the one that's gonna push the button,
Okay.
but not in a you need to do this. I was in the school system and I worked as an instructional coach. So I was between teachers and administration. So just understanding what's on the plate and what needs to happen, but doing it in a way where, you know, they know we're support and a help, and to help that checklist go a little bit better or faster or whatever it might be, we can actually support that moving forward. So I'm gonna push in a little bit more and see how we can be a bigger village across the board.
I wanted to note on class scheduling, that in January, the juniors would begin their senior year classes, so just something to be aware of and get ahead of that. I had 2 students I've worked with in the past who got very poor math guidance in particular. They're gonna push to be challenged in that the way they should be, so.
So the comment was in January, juniors will be able to start selecting classes for senior year. So please start having those conversations as well.
Those of you who have seniors, my seniors are only taking 3 or 4 classes. Are they doing that around? She has all the requirements and everything else, and she's got an internship in the afternoon. For
Sometimes.
AP,
Sometimes.
IB, whatever classes in the morning, and then but I didn't know if that was,
What school?
Washington Lee.
That's the IB program.
Yeah, but it's,
Mine's
yeah,
at Yorktown, she's taking a full load.
what?
Mine's at Yorktown and she's taking.
You got
a
a full, I didn't know,
Mine's at
no.
Wakefield and she's
Okay.
It just depends. There are students that have those types of
It's special
schedules.
kind of internship that they get paid for actually in the afternoons.
Wow.
So,
That's
yeah,
what they
yeah.
One of my granddaughters went to the IB.
Maria asked the same issue my student did not know about Naviance. As the guidance counselor set them up with an account. They do get that set up and that information in schools of how to set up their account and how to get connected with that. So if you still need support with that, let me know, Maria. But they should be able to get that connection.
Okay, thank you.
But if we can get Naviance training, then we can sit with them and go.
And go through,
with them on it,
yeah.
You know.
I'll work with our DEI coordinators so they can come out and do a training on Naviance.
Virtual too.
So guys, it is 6:35. I'm going to honor your time. Those who are here, please eat cookies and brownies and take the water with you. Those that are online, thank you so much for joining. I hope that this was helpful for everyone. I hope you know that we're here and we'll be bringing more to the table. If there's anything else that you may have forgotten or want to share, please let us know. Thank you all for welcoming me here. I appreciate that, and I look forward to our work together. You guys be safe and have a great night. Good night, everyone online.
I wasn't being rude, it was Daniela on the.
Okay.
So while I had her on the phone, I said, are you going to tech?
Thank you all. Thank you so much. Can't wait to see you all in person.
Really important.